There are so many awesome games out there in the board game world, and a lot of them can be pretty expensive. So let's dive in and take a look at some of my favorite games under $20. Hello and welcome to Nelson All Over. I'm Nelson and today we're diving in and taking a look at some games that do not break the bank. So many games are inching up in price, and I see that a lot of the new standard $50, what used to be $50, now $60 and $70, and these Kickstarters are getting really expensive. But there are some games out there that are significantly less expensive, and I wanted to take the time to make a video to highlight some of my favorite games under $20. Now, to find this $20 price limit, I did use Miniature Markets pricing. Therefore, it may be a little bit different based on where you are in the world and what you're looking at and what sites you're on. But these are all around the $20, maybe $25, depending on where you look, range, but I'm going to call out Miniature Markets pricing. And without further ado, let's just dive right into it because I don't want to take any more time. I want to get deep into the meat of it. The first one up is Cartographers, published by Thunderwork Games. In this game, you are a cartographer working for a queen attempting to map the northern lands so that they can be reclaimed for the kingdom. The game is played out over 4 different seasons, or rounds, which will each score differently based on some of the random scoring cards that will be drawn at the start of the game. There will be different cards that flip up each turn, and that's going to have a different shape and or type of terrain listed on that card that you will need to draw on your map. The game comes with a significant amount of replayability because all your cards are coming out differently. The scoring is randomized and different every single game, and so each time you play this game, you're going to have a better experience, and you can get this just for $17.99 on Miniature Market. The next game that I have on my list is called Clover. This is a game I got to play when I visited with some of my friends, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's a cooperative word association game where players are attempting to associate 4 pairs of words that are been dealt to them. The clues are written on the edges of this really cool Clover component where your cards are going to fit in there, and then the outside words are the ones you're trying to associate. You write your clue on the Clover, then you're going to take all of the cards out of the Clover component, shuffle it in with a random card or 2, and then the goal of the rest of the group is to flip up all your cards and then place them back in the correct orientation. It's great to sit there and work and try and figure out how you're going to associate these 2 crazy different words, and then it clicks and you get it, and that's just so satisfying. It's also hilarious when there's a card that gets thrown into the mix that just completely destroys your plans. It is an incredibly fun game that you will get sucked into and spend way too long playing. This one you can find at $19.99, so right under our threshold. Up next is The Crew Quest for Planet 9. This is a game where players are going on an adventure to try and find the mysterious Planet 9. It's a cooperative trick-taking game where there are 50 different missions, all which have progressively more difficult win conditions. The mechanics are the exact same through all of these 50 missions, so once you understand the mechanics, it's just an implementation of those mechanics and an increasing difficulty over the 50 different missions that make this game so incredibly replayable. I love being able to sit down with a group and working our way progressively through the more difficult missions and understanding how as a group we communicate and understand and play so that we can get through some of these incredibly difficult missions. And the sense of satisfaction that you get from beating some of these higher level missions or the mission that you've been stuck on for just way too long is immense. I love The Crew, and it's one of the games that we will sit down and play and then look up and my timer's been going for 3 hours. That is not a joke. This game feels like you've been playing for an hour, and it actually is 3 because that's how involved and invested you get in the game. And you can get this on Miniature Market for $10.99. Incredible value. Highly recommend The Crew. Next up is probably the most popular game on my list today. That is Codenames. This is a word association game where 2 teams are facing off trying to identify their specific words before their opponents. On each team, there's going to be 1 clue giver who has the key, so they know exactly what cards they're trying to associate for their teammates, and they will be giving a clue and then a number of cards that clue corresponds to. The guessers on the team will then talk amongst themselves and try and point to the cards that the clue giver is trying to associate. This game feels similar to Clover in the fact that you're trying to find that connecting thread of all the different clues that are out there and make sure that you're not giving your opponents points or finding that deadly assassin, the one card that will immediately lose you the game. I love this game. I love being the clue giver, and it works different parts of my brain than being the guesser in this, and it's hard to find someone who does not at least enjoy themselves when they're playing this game. Because it's a team-based game, you feel the camaraderie of working together and trying to take on and beat up on the other team, which is an absolute blast. If you're not into team and cooperative, more your speed, there is a cooperative version of this game called Codenames Duet, which is also incredible. I play this with my wife fairly frequently, and it's one of our go-to closing the night type games. They're both the same price, the core Codenames as well as Codenames Duet. They're both the same for $18.99 on Miniature Market. Up next is the least expensive game on our list today, and this is another cooperative game called The Mind. So The Mind, players are trying to play cards in their hand in ascending order without communicating in any way. This game sounds so dumb. I will admit that every single day of the week that this game sounds very bad. However, it's a blast. The first round, everyone gets one card. That card is going to be numbered 1 through 100. Every single round after that, you increase the number of cards you're getting. The goal of the game is to lay your cards down in ascending order without skipping anybody else's cards that they have in their hand. If you do skip any cards, you lose a life, and the objective is to make it as high as you get. This feels so dumb. I am sorry. It sounds so dumb, but it is another game that you kind of just get lost in. And you start to get the cadence of people's thoughts and play velocity. I've played in games where we play really quickly. I've played in groups where the rounds feel like they take 5 minutes because no one wants to play the next card. Being able to adjust and find exactly the rhythm that your group has is why this game is so fun, and it's just so epic when you're able to do those 10, 11 card hands, and then you get to try and do it face down. And that just brings a whole new level of excitement to the game. Like I said, this is the least expensive on our list, coming in at $9.99. And then finally, the last game on our list is a 2-player only game called Lost Cities. This is a head-to-head 2-player drafting game that only takes about 15 minutes, which is perfect for getting it in before your games, or if you just have a couple of minutes to kill before you need to run to the store. Lost Cities is a great game for that. Each player is going on multiple expeditions, trying to score each expedition and come out with the most victory points. Each turn, players will either play a card or discard a card from their hand into a specific colored discard pile. After you play or discard a card, you need to then draw a card that can be from the top of the deck or from one of the discard piles. Cards need to be played in ascending order and only to their suit's lane. What's really interesting about this game is how scoring works. At the end of the game, every single suit that you have played a card into will score. You sum the numbers on the cards range from 1 to 10, and then subtract 20. This creates some really interesting decision points because not only do you need to exceed 20, but if you play a card, say you start out with a 3 and you play no cards in that suit for the rest of the game, at the end of the game, you're going to score minus 17 points for that suit. And so you really need to make sure you can exceed 20, but you don't necessarily want to just discard the cards because what if that's a card your opponent needs? So you're constantly trying to make your hand work and say, okay, I need to hang on to these cards. I can't discard them because the person sitting across from my table really needs these. So I need to wait until they play the 8. Then I can discard my 7 because it's safe. They cannot play it any longer. This game is a deck of cards. It's super easy to travel with, and it does, like I said, only take about 15 minutes. So a great game to take on trips, play in the airports, or just play at your house on your coffee table. maybe before you start your workday or something like that. I have really fallen in love with Lost Cities ever since the first time I played it earlier this year, and I was ecstatic when I saw that it was only $14.99 on Miniature Market. So there you have it. Those are some of my favorite games under $20. I hope that this video works well for you. A lot of these games are ones that I adore, and I would pay more than $20 for them. We are just fortunate enough to be able to get them for less than that $20 bill. What are some of the games that you enjoy that make it under that $20 or $25 range? I'm curious because I love pointing people to these types of games, because whenever I introduce a game to somebody, they typically are looking at it, but sometimes the price can be prohibitive in buying it. These games, I rarely have that happen. And so let me know in the comments what some of your favorite games under the $25 mark are, just so I can kind of, you know, take a gander and maybe buy some, because when I buy a $25 game, it doesn't feel super bad. I feel good when I buy a $25 game. It's like I saved money. Thank you so very much for watching the video. If you did enjoy this video, it goes a long way if you give the video a thumbs up and then subscribe to the channel. I do weekly board game content, and I am so happy to have you all here. Thanks for hanging out. See you next week. Peace.